Well, it was Christmas, 1975, Darren. Both Chester and I were sitting around the fireplace, and it was time to open up the stockings, and there it was, an invitation for however many years later, in 2012, we're here now, and said you guys are invited to play the Honda Civic Tour in 2012 summer, and now it's time. We've been preparing this whole time.
Absolutely.
It's going to be awesome.
You know, I'm sure that somewhere somebody could probably find a show where we were on the same bill or on the same in the same area on different stages or different days. But this will be the first time that our two bands have gone out together, which is strange to think about because I think we share a lot of the same fans. There have been a lot of opportunities. I know that we've put tours together in the past where we've, offered to go on tour together, but they were already out, or they were just finishing their tours going on, or vice versa. Maybe another promoter had asked us, and it just never worked out until now. So this is going to be exciting for not only our fans, but for us as well.
We have no idea, and that's the fun part.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I know what that means. But at the same time, I'm gonna assume, and I think that our bands are constantly trying to push our own creative goals, and I know that within Linkin Park we try to reinvent ourselves every time we make an album, and so our landscape is constantly changing, and people respond to it positively, some people respond to it negatively, and that's the beauty of what we do. We are on a journey of creativity and experimentation all the time, and so that's the way the music business goes. Things are constantly evolving and changing, and that's what's so exciting. And our fans get to see all of that in one place when they see us play our shows. We take music from all of our albums, we put them all together, and we try to pick songs that are exciting and fun to play live and that people enjoy listening to. I think it'll be a positive thing if anything, for the tour this summer.
I see. We've been on the road for the past year or so, supporting If Not Now When, and I see the experience thus far as being, almost entirely positive. Being on tour for a year, being on the road for a year, is a very strange experience for every reason you can think of, and then a whole bunch that I haven't thought of yet. And but all I can really do is base my observations on the reactions of the people that have come out to see the shows over the past year. And so when we start to play our new songs, people seem to get very excited. And so I guess that's a good thing, last I checked. But it's kind of it gets more and more interesting to play concerts the further along we go. If Not Now When is technically our 7th record, and so we have that much more to pull from when we're putting a set together. And so the ride just gets a little bit more interesting, I guess you could say. Like Chester was saying, though, that every time you put a record out, you run the risk of alienating listeners, because especially if you're interested as a band in pushing boundaries and creating new sounds. And there's a lot of people that grow up with bands that they want to hold the band to that one thing that they held on to. And it's great to have their attention, that much, but it's also quite dangerous for a creative person to pay too much attention to that, because that could really be the death of one's creativity. So I think what we share in common between our bands is that we're interested in continually evolving and challenging our listeners. So in respect to your question, I really think that is what we've really done especially with this newest record, because it's so different than anything we've ever done before. It's so much more slow and dark than anything we've ever made. But I still really enjoy it, and the songs are a lot of fun to play live too.
Well, it's interesting because I think, you know, in our case, and this might be true for other artists as well, but people, I think, may think that the process of making an album is kind of premeditated, where you're sitting down and you go, okay, what kind of album are we going to make? What are we going to write about? How's it going to sound? And then you go, like, you kind of like think of the finished product in your head, and then you try to go execute that. Where quite the opposite is really essentially true for us. There's a process, a creative process that happens that's natural and is unintentional and is very organic, but yet like no one really knows where the song is going to end up. And you know, a good example is if I walked into the studio with Burn It Down, for example, in its form right now, and that was the first time anybody else in the band had heard it, we would naturally, through the process of the creative process, we would change it. So, you know, where we are at with an album when we're finished with it, really is not a product of what we intended to achieve when we started. And so, you know, with 1,000 Suns, like, we didn't intentionally write a concept record. It kind of accidentally wrote itself. And what we found was there were connective themes, there were connective sounds, and when we put them in a specific order, it kind of told a story. And with this album, we weren't really necessarily talking about social issues. We were talking about relationships. We were talking about human emotions. And you know, I think the only thing that we really tried to put into this album was something that Mike and I had talked about when we were touring, was let's write a bunch of songs that would be fun to play live and keep the energy up and be exciting for our fans to get into, which kind of inspired us to go back to, you know, some of the things that some of our earlier fans would be more familiar with, some of the things that we may have alienated them in some respects over the last couple albums with 1,000 Suns and with Minutes to Midnight. We've gone back to a couple of the stylistic things that people who got into us early in our career would be more familiar with, and we mixed those with some of the things that we've learned since we began working with Rick Rubin. So, you know, in this album, we really just wanted to make an album that represents the best of what we can do now, and that's the only really predetermined thing that we try to do before we go in the studio, is we want to make music that's relevant to us as people now, and that makes us feel fulfilled creatively moving forward. No, not really. I mean, we're just actually getting to know each other. You know, we've never hung out before, you know. I mean, I've always had a respect for Incubus and what they've been able to achieve, and I'm happy for their success, and I enjoy their songs. But, you know, this is the first time we've ever, you know, outside of the last few days when we've done interviews together, this is our first chance of getting to know each other. So, you know, that hasn't come up. And usually when those things do come up for us, it's a very kind of spontaneous thing where that you have a moment with that person or that artist, and you go, hey, would you want to come up tomorrow and do a song with us? So there's potential for that to happen, but you know, we haven't formally sat down and talked about doing something together at this point.
You know, I think that really anything is possible in the spirit of spontaneity. So that's probably the best way to answer that question. You know, if a mutual appreciation and admiration for Hall & Oates emerges amongst the two bands,
we
then
actually do have a
there you go. This is how it works. You see, we're just early in the process.
And you're planting the seeds with some other people. That would be fun. It would be fun for sure for our fans to see us do something together.
I think it was very critical to the survival of our band. I wouldn't word it necessarily that way. I know that it was something that we concocted on our own. Our record label seemed to disappear around that time for lots of different reasons. There was a functioning radio department at our record label, which we're so thankful for. But a lot of the other tried and true functions of a record label just weren't existing at that point, and it, probably in no small part because of just the way the record industry has been going. So we needed to come up with an idea that was going to introduce the release of our newest record very distinctly and very uniquely. So we came up with this idea, which was sort of sparked a long time ago based on a desire of mine to stay home and tour.
You are a genius.
I wanted to find a way that, and I got the idea from the original Star Wars when R2-D2 projects the hologram of Princess Leia with her distress signal, "Help us, Obi-Wan, help us." And I resonated with it because I'm like, help me find a way that I can do what I love to do but not have to have a little chunk of my soul taken away while I'm doing it, which would mean staying home more and touring. So we basically came up with this idea to hijack one space in Los Angeles and do live broadcasts of a sort of a large brushstroke of all of our music thus far in our career, bring fans in from all over the world and broadcast it live to the web. And we did it, and it worked, and it was a lot of fun. It was really stressful because it was live, but it was a lot of fun. And actually, we recorded the whole thing in HD and mixed it to 5.1 surround, and it's we turned it into this like collector's box set, which is going to be available, I think, next month.
Awesome.
So.
You know, I try not to look into the future very often. I found that when I focus on where I'm going to be in 8 months, I tend to, it tends to lose its sparkle for me. Because interestingly enough, when Brandon was talking about touring from home, like that got me really excited because I've been trying to figure out how to do the same thing. You know, touring is actually really difficult. I mean, you put a lot of time in. You're away from people. You're cut off from normal societal situations. I can go to the grocery store at home off tour and no one cares. But when I go on tour, people expect me to be around, and all of a sudden it becomes a big deal. But like, yeah, you know, we enjoy when you're on tour. Your life goes away for wherever your time on that particular tour is. And so the best part is actually playing the shows and having that intimate experience with the fans, and that's what we look forward to the most. So I find that when I pay attention to where I'm going to be and what I've got planned, it kind of makes me just think about not being at home with my wife and my kids. And what I start thinking about, you know, missing my baby's first steps, or you know, watching Tyler hit a home run at his baseball game that I won't be at, or seeing, you know, my son drive off to college because I'm gone, you know, or graduate from 8th grade, which I'll be missing. So those kinds of things go through my mind, and that kind of bums me out. So
leave the planning to the planners.
If you want to know what we're doing, just go to linkinpark.com, or you can go to incubushq.com, because and I guarantee that there are people out there who are fans of what we do that actually know my schedule way better than I do.
That's awesome.
Don't forget to like Honda Civic Tour on Facebook for the latest info.
See you all this summer.